I thought I knew her. My trusted secretary, my confidant, the one who managed my life's chaos. But one lie, one whispered falsehood, unraveled everything I believed about trust and loyalty. What started as a simple misunderstanding spiraled into a courtroom drama that exposed secrets I never imagined. This is my story of betrayal, discovery, and the truth that set me free. Stick with me for a tale that'll make you question who you can really trust. My name is Emily Harper, and I've built a thriving tech startup from the ground up. 4 years, I poured my heart into my company, trusting my team like family. My secretary, Clara, was my right hand, organized, sharp, and always one step ahead. She handled my schedules, my emails, even my coffee order. I relied on her completely, never questioning her loyalty. But one day, everything changed. A rumor began to spread, subtle at first, like a whisper in the wind. It was about me, my leadership, my integrity. Clients started pulling back, hesitant, their trust shaken. I couldn't trace the source, but the damage was real. Meetings were canceled, deals fell through, and my reputation teetered. Clara assured me she'd help find the culprit. She promised to stand by me. I believed her, blindly. Little did I know, the betrayal was closer than I thought. The rumor wasn't just gossip. It was vicious. It claimed I'd been embezzling funds from my own company. The accusation stung, not just because it was false, but because it was so calculated. Who could have known enough to craft such a lie? I spent sleepless nights reviewing every email, every transaction, trying to clear my name. Clara was there, offering support, suggesting we hire a PR firm. She seemed so invested, so genuine. But something felt off. Her suggestions were too quick, too polished. I started noticing small inconsistencies, a missed meeting she hadn't logged, a client she claimed she'd spoken to who later denied it. My gut twisted, but I pushed the doubt aside. Clara had been with me for years. She wouldn't betray me, would she? The whispers grew louder, and I couldn't ignore them anymore. My board demanded answers. They called an emergency meeting, their faces grim. The rumor had reached them, and they wanted transparency. I presented every financial record, every audit, proving my innocence. But the damage was done. Trust was eroding fast. Clara sat in the corner, taking notes, her expression unreadable. I caught her glancing at her phone, her fingers tapping nervously. Why was she so uneasy? I started digging deeper, hiring a private investigator to trace the rumor's origin. What I found shocked me. An anonymous email, sent from a burner account, had started it all. The investigator traced it to a cafe near our office. Clara frequented that cafe every morning. My heart sank, but I needed proof, not suspicions. I confronted Clara, casually at first, asking if she'd heard anything unusual. Her eyes darted away, her voice too steady, too rehearsed. She denied everything, but her words felt hollow. I started cross-checking her actions, her access to my emails, my files, my contacts. She had everything she needed to craft the perfect lie. But why? What did she gain? I remembered a promotion she'd wanted, one I'd given to someone else. Was this revenge? I couldn't believe it yet, but the pieces were aligning. My investigator found more, a second burner account, linked to Clara's personal laptop. The betrayal cut deep, but I had to stay calm. I needed to play this smart. I decided to test Clara. I fed her false information about a new project, one only she and I knew about. If the rumor mill churned it out, I'd have my answer. Sure enough, within days, whispers of the fake project reached my board. Clara's mask was slipping. I felt sick, betrayed by someone I'd trusted so deeply. But I wasn't ready to confront her fully. Not yet. I needed airtight evidence, something undeniable. My investigator suggested monitoring her communications, legally, through company channels. I agreed, though it felt like a violation of my own principles. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. Clara wasn't just spreading lies, she was selling my company's secrets. The emails were damning. Clara had been in contact with a competitor, feeding them sensitive information. The rumor about me was just a distraction, a way to destabilize my leadership while she profited. My heart broke, but anger fueled me. I gathered every piece of evidence, screenshots, timestamps, IP addresses. I wasn't just fighting for my reputation now, I was fighting for my company's survival. Clara had no idea I was onto her. She continued her routine, smiling, scheduling, lying. I played along, keeping her close while building my case. The courtroom loomed in my mind. I'd need to face her there, and I'd need to win. I consulted a lawyer, a sharp woman named Rachel who specialized in corporate betrayal. She reviewed my evidence and nodded grimly. It was enough to sue. We filed a case against Clara for defamation and breach of contract. The process was agonizingly slow, but I couldn't rush it. Every step had to be perfect. Clara, meanwhile, grew bolder, unaware of the net tightening around her. She spread another rumor, this time about my mental health, claiming I was unfit to lead. It was a desperate move, and it backfired. My team rallied around me, sensing the truth. I felt a flicker of hope, but the battle was far from over. The court date was set. I spent weeks preparing, rehearsing my testimony, reliving the betrayal. Clara's lawyer painted her as a loyal employee, caught in a misunderstanding. But the evidence was overwhelming. The burner accounts, the cafe Wi-Fi logs, the emails to our competitor, it all pointed to her. I took the stand, my voice steady but my heart racing. I recounted every detail, every moment of doubt, every discovery. Clara's face was stone, but I saw her hands tremble. The truth was unraveling, and she couldn't stop it. The judge listened intently, her expression unreadable. I felt exposed, but I also felt strong. The prosecution presented Clara's emails, each one a dagger to her defense. Her lawyer tried to spin it, claiming she was coerced, but the judge wasn't buying it. My team testified, corroborating my story, exposing Clara's subtle manipulations. I watched her squirm, her confidence crumbling. The courtroom felt like a pressure cooker, every word a step closer to justice. I remembered the late nights, the stress, the betrayal. It fueled me to keep going. Clara took the stand, her voice shaky, her lies unraveling. She couldn't explain the emails, the accounts, the motive. The truth was winning. The verdict came after days of deliberation. Clara was found guilty of defamation and breach of contract. The judge ordered her to pay damages and barred her from working in our industry again. I felt a weight lift, but it wasn't joy, it was relief. The truth had prevailed, but the scars remained. My company was safe, but my trust in people was shaken. I walked out of the courtroom, the sunlight harsh but cleansing. Clara's lies had cost her everything, while I reclaimed my reputation. But the journey wasn't over. I had to rebuild, and I had to heal. Rebuilding wasn't easy. The rumors had left a stain, even after the verdict. Clients were cautious, and my team was rattled. I hired a new secretary, Sarah, but I kept her at arm's length. Trust was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. I focused on transparency, holding open meetings, sharing financials with my board. Slowly, confidence returned. But Clara's betrayal lingered in my mind. I wondered what drove her: greed, envy, or something deeper. I'd never know, and maybe that was okay. I had to move forward, not dwell on her motives. My company deserved my focus, and so did I. I started therapy to process the betrayal. It helped, though admitting I needed it was hard. My therapist, Dr. Ellis, taught me to rebuild trust selectively. I learned to spot red flags, overly polished answers, subtle deflections. I applied it to my work, vetting every new hire rigorously. Sarah proved herself, slowly earning my trust with her honesty and diligence. But I was different now, more guarded, more aware. The courtroom had exposed not just Clara's lies but my own vulnerabilities. I wasn't invincible, and that was a hard truth to swallow. But it made me stronger, wiser. My company bounced back, stronger than before. The verdict gave us a clean slate, and I used it to innovate. We launched a new product line, one Clara had tried to sabotage. It was a hit, and the press loved our comeback story. I gave interviews, not to gloat, but to set the record straight. People needed to know the truth, not just the rumors. I spoke about resilience, about trusting your gut, about fighting for what's right. The response was overwhelming. Clients returned, investors called, and my team rallied. Clara's lie had tested us, but it also forged us. I kept tabs on Clara, not out of spite, but curiosity. She'd moved to another city, working a low-level job unrelated to tech. Her reputation was ruined, her network gone. I didn't feel vindicated, just sad. She'd had potential, talent, a future. But she chose betrayal. I wondered if she regretted it, if she replayed her choices like I did. Probably not. People like Clara rarely look back. I let go of my anger, bit by bit. It wasn't worth carrying. My focus was on my company, my team, my future. The courtroom experience changed how I led. I became more hands-on, less reliant on others to filter information. I implemented new systems, encrypted communications, regular audits, stricter access controls. My team adapted, understanding the need for vigilance. We weren't paranoid, just prepared. I also started mentoring young entrepreneurs, sharing my story as a cautionary tale. Trust, I told them, is earned, not given. They listened, wide-eyed, as I recounted Clara's betrayal and the courtroom's truth. It felt good to turn pain into purpose. My personal life took a hit, though. Friends I'd confided in during the ordeal drifted away, unsure how to handle my intensity. I didn't blame them. I'd changed. I spent more time alone, reflecting, rebuilding my inner strength. My therapist encouraged me to reconnect, but I wasn't ready. Work was my anchor, my purpose. I poured myself into it, finding solace in numbers, strategies, successes. But late at night, Clara's face haunted me. Not her lies, but her smile, the one I'd trusted. I was healing, but it was slow, deliberate. A year after the verdict, I got a letter. It was from Clara, handwritten, unexpected. She didn't apologize, not directly. Instead, she wrote about her struggles, her regrets, her new life. It was vague, self-serving, but it stirred something in me. I didn't respond. I didn't owe her that. But I read it again, searching for remorse, for answers. There were none. I burned the letter, letting the ashes scatter. It was closure of a sort. I didn't need her validation. The courtroom had given me truth, and that was enough. My company's growth accelerated. We went public, a milestone I'd dreamed of since starting out. The IPO was a success, and I stood on the stock exchange floor, my team beside me, feeling invincible. But I wasn't naive anymore. I knew success was fragile, trust even more so. I kept my guard up, balancing openness with caution. Sarah became my new confidant, but I never gave her full access. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I'd learned. The courtroom had taught me that truth is hard-won, and I'd never take it for granted again. I started speaking at conferences, sharing my story with broader audiences. People related, not just entrepreneurs, but anyone who'd faced betrayal. My talks weren't about Clara, they were about resilience, about fighting lies with truth. I met others who'd been through similar battles, their stories echoing mine. We formed a network, a quiet support system for those burned by trust. It felt like a new purpose, one I hadn't expected. The courtroom hadn't just saved my company, it had given me a voice. Looking back, I realized Clara's lie was a catalyst. It forced me to confront my weaknesses, to strengthen my company, to redefine trust. I wasn't grateful for her betrayal, but I was grateful for the growth it sparked. I'd faced the worst and come out stronger. My team was tighter, my vision clearer, my resolve unbreakable. The courtroom had been my crucible, and I'd emerged refined. I wasn't the same Emily Harper, and that was okay. The truth had set me free, not just from Clara's lies, but from my own blind spots. 2 years later, my company was thriving, a leader in the tech industry. We'd expanded globally, and I was mentoring a new generation of leaders. Trust was still hard, but I was learning to give it selectively. Sarah proved herself daily, her loyalty a quiet reassurance. I still thought of Clara sometimes, not with anger, but with detachment. She was a chapter, not the story. My story was about resilience, about truth prevailing. I'd built something stronger than her lies, and that was my victory. The courtroom had been the turning point, but I was the one who'd walked forward. I started writing a book about my experience, not just for entrepreneurs, but for anyone facing betrayal. It was cathartic, putting words to the pain, the fight, the triumph. I wrote about the courtroom, the emails, the moment I realized Clara's truth. I wrote about trust, how it's both fragile and powerful. Publishers were interested, and I felt a spark of excitement. My story could help others, could warn them, inspire them. I wasn't just a CEO anymore. I was a storyteller, a survivor. The lie had tried to break me, but it had built me instead. My personal life began to heal, too. I reconnected with old friends, opened up about my journey. They listened, and I felt the warmth of connection again. I even started dating cautiously, letting trust grow slowly. My therapist called it progress, and I agreed. The courtroom had been a battle, but it had also been a mirror, showing me who I was and who I could be. I wasn't defined by Clara's lie, but by how I fought it. That was my truth, and I carried it proudly. My company's culture shifted, becoming more open, more collaborative. I encouraged my team to speak up, to challenge, to question. It wasn't just about preventing another Clara, it was about building something better. We celebrated wins together, learned from losses together. I wasn't their untouchable CEO anymore. I was their leader, flawed but fierce. The courtroom had humbled me, but it had also empowered me. I led with truth now, not just ambition. It made all the difference. I revisited the cafe where Clara's burner account was traced. It was just a place now, no longer a symbol of betrayal. I sat with a coffee, reflecting on how far I'd come. The pain was still there, a quiet ache, but it didn't define me. I'd faced the lie, fought for the truth, and won. The courtroom had been my battleground, but my life was my victory. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. The truth wasn't just a verdict, it was my foundation, my strength. My book was published, and the response was overwhelming. Readers reached out, sharing their own stories of betrayal and redemption. I realized I wasn't alone, and neither were they. The courtroom had been my crucible, but it was also theirs. We were survivors, bound by the truth we'd fought for. I started a podcast too, interviewing others who'd faced similar battles. Each story reinforced my belief. Lies may wound, but truth heals. Clara's lie had sparked a movement, and I was its voice. My company's success drew attention, and I was invited to speak at a global summit. I stood before thousands, sharing my story, not as a victim, but as a victor. The applause was deafening, but the real reward was the emails that followed, people inspired to fight their own battles. I thought of Clara briefly, wondering if she'd ever know the impact of her lie. It didn't matter. She'd tried to destroy me, but she'd made me unstoppable. The courtroom had been the stage, but I was the one who'd written the ending. I hired a chief of staff, someone to share the load as my company grew. I chose carefully, learning from the past. Michael was honest, direct, and unafraid to challenge me. He wasn't Clara, and I wasn't the same Emily. I trusted him, not blindly, but deliberately. The courtroom had taught me the difference. My company thrived under our shared vision, and I felt a sense of peace. The lie was a distant memory, the truth a living reality. I was stronger, and so was my team. I looked back on the journey, from the first whisper of the rumor to the courtroom's verdict. It wasn't just about Clara, it was about me, my resilience, my truth. I'd faced betrayal and come out whole. The scars were there, but they were proof of survival. My company, my team, my life, they were all stronger for it. The courtroom had been a reckoning, but it had also been a rebirth. I wasn't just Emily Harper, CEO. I was Emily Harper, survivor, truth-teller, leader. Now, I'm looking forward, not back. My company is growing, my book is inspiring, my voice is heard. Clara's lie was a storm, but I was the lighthouse. The courtroom revealed the truth, but I was the one who carried it forward. I'm not defined by the lie, but by the fight. And I'll keep fighting, for my company, my team, myself. The truth is my armor, my strength, my legacy. If you've been betrayed, if you're fighting your own battle, know this, the truth will set you free. It did for me. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and join my channel. I share stories of resilience, leadership, and truth every week. Don't miss out. Let's fight for the truth together.